If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day.
Oh, that's brings me back to memories, actually. I have actually not been back to Africa since 1988. Wow. That's when I came to America. After I finished high school. And we, in Zambia, where I was born, everybody thinks, oh, so do you have wild animals running in your backyard? That's what I always get asked. That's the first thing I get asked. And I say, no. I lived in the city, so it's like a small town here. And unless you go to the game parks, you don't have wild animals running in the park.
So you don't have monkeys?
So, at least where I grew up, which was the capital city, we didn't have monkeys. But we followed another thing, you know, people ask is, did you always speak English? So let me clarify, yes, because a lot of the African countries were British colonies. They were either British, French, maybe some Dutch colonies. So yes, you don't speak Afrikaans. And there's so many different dialects of the African language.
Just 54 countries. 54 countries.
And each country has different local languages. Like in Zambia, you have Tonga, Bemba, Nyanja. There's just so many languages, and one language can't understand the other language. So let me cross over into India. Everybody looks at me and goes, but you look Indian. You don't look African. Well, I am Indian. I am Indian, but I grew up in Africa. So that's what I think makes me very unique. India is the same way. Just for those people who think everybody that has brown skin can understand each other. In India, there's so many different states, and each state is like its own country. Different dress, different food, different, you know, verbiage, everything, the mannerism, everything is different. So just because somebody says they're from India, don't assume they're exactly like the other person that you know. There's actually a lot to learn about India as well. I personally have not been to India in almost 30 years. I haven't been to Africa in 24 years, and one of the reasons was financial, actually. Because when I came to the United States for education, talking about what April mentioned, you know, education. We all knew in Africa that education is not something that's just, you know, taken for granted. I remember going to school, and it's called primary school and secondary school. And if you didn't pass the board exam at the end of the primary school, you didn't get to go to your secondary school. So only if you worked hard did you get to go to the secondary school. Whereas here, people take it for granted. And I always tell people, America is beautiful. America is, you can be what you want to be because there's so many opportunities. So, you know, don't take it for granted. Other countries don't have that. Other countries don't have, education is taken for granted. Including school is taken for granted. Don't. Because I only got to get to secondary school, and I went to an all-convent St. Mary's convent school. It was a Catholic school. So I was exposed to the Bible for 5 years. I went to Mass. So I'm so diverse and from everywhere. You know, I knew the Beatitudes, just like that. I could say them. I had to know them, right? I had to know them for my religious education board exam. You know, I guess the point is, having come from these countries, third world countries if you want to call them, you appreciate what you have. And I think in life, if you appreciate the moment and what you have, and don't look at everything around you, which usually most people look at materialistic things. I want this house, I want that car, I want that handbag. And they get so caught up with things like that that you don't appreciate what you have. If you just appreciate being alive, having clean water, right, Toni?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, clean water, running water, and a shower, and safety. Talk about safety.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now in Africa, when I left Africa, one of the reasons I left Africa was because of education. One of my uncles who went to school in the United States told my dad, these girls are bright, you've got to send them for an education. And we had one university in the entire school, country, and I got accepted into it, but what they were offering I was not interested in. So fortunately, our family got together and sent us to school here. And I knew when I came to this country that there was no fooling around. My parents were working very, very hard to put us through school. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, what made you become a dentist? Do you have dentists in your family? No, nobody's a dentist. Now my twin sister is. But with me, it was knowing what I didn't want to be. I knew I didn't want to be a physician, and no offense to physicians, but I don't like a hospital environment. Toni, you can probably tell me why. And I like doing things my way, so at least with the dental practice, I can have my setting and things like it's not very corporate. So that's how I went from knowing what I didn't want to do to taking a tour around the dental school and seeing people work with their hands and seeing how they can put a smile on somebody's face. And I've seen people go from not smiling to when I restore the smile to they walk in smiling. I have changed their life. That's what I love about what I do. It's changing lives. Look at this Toni right there. So you know, that's just a little bit about me. There's so much. It's hard to tell everything.
Can we recognize the mother in
yes.
the room?
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I want to thank, I have parents that are the most unselfish parents in the entire world.
Wow. Precious.
I am telling you, I could have never asked for the best parents. There's my mom right there in the audience. My dad couldn't make it. And my husband, actually, that's got the camera right there. When I walked in, I told Toni Akinyede that my husband's the wind beneath my wings, because without his support,
that's right.
You know, I couldn't be practicing at the level that I want to be.
That's right.
I couldn't have the family. I love my children. I have 2 children, beautiful children, an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. And we all know how much children take up. It's a full-time ×2 job. So anytime I have a mom come into practice and I say, so what do you do? And they go, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home. I say, no, that's harder work than me. That really is more hard work than me, because when I have to stay home, I'm exhausted. Right. So dentistry, fortunately, I ended up, you know, in dentistry, and I love what I do. It's not work because I love what I do.
Do you remember the time you told me about your daughter was drawing on the walls?
Yes.
She was little, and you said, I said, are you going to paint it? You said, no, why? Let her finish drawing on the wall.
That's a good answer.
That's right. You know, we get so caught up with everything looking perfect, right? Let her have her fun, and we'll get to it. Who cares?
What did your parents have to sacrifice to carry on to allow you to carry on with your inspiration? How many Mercedes-Benz, Lexuses, and trips, cruises that they have to take, that they have to forgo to allow you to be able to pay for that university? That's
exactly right. I know. You know, growing up, I remember in Africa, we lived in an extended family actually. My dad is the oldest of 10 siblings.
Wow.
And my grandfather...
They don't believe in birth control?
I guess not. was at a very young age. So my dad, at the age of 16, had to leave, and he didn't get to college because he had to come and take care of his siblings. He came back home and started taking care of his brothers and sisters, and my mom is considered their mother. Most of my uncles and aunts consider my mom their mom. That's how giving my parents are. And if this tells you how people in Africa live, I didn't even know brand name. I didn't know there was something called brand name until I came to the United States. And I was 18. That's how I was brought up. Talk about simple.
So you didn't get a Gucci bag until you got 18?
And I still don't have them. I don't still have them. So that's the thing, is you don't need things to make you feel. If you're confident, and I tell my daughter, I said, just be confident in yourself.
Yes.
You know, and whatever you do, think if you're unselfish, if you're thoughtful, and care about other people, then you'll be happy in life.
I was, you were talking about extended families.
Yes.
I had a community of people around me. When I went to Africa, every last one of my trips were sponsored trips.
Yeah.
That spoke volumes to me because it showed me community connectedness. And that's what you get when you're in Africa as well. I keep going back to Africa because it was such a profound experience for me. But I was able to speak to a group of women once. And I want to talk about, if you don't mind, just for 1 second, about how important it is to come together. Okay? I had been asked to go to Africa, and in 3 weeks, and I was working myself to death trying to figure out, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to take to Africa? I mean, I can't go with prosperity necessarily because I was going into the bush. You don't go talking about cars and houses and all those kinds of things in the bush. So I thought, Lord, what am I going to say to these women? And I mean, I didn't know what to do. One night I got up real late, and I was rushing to go to the restroom, and guess what I did? I crashed my little toe into the bedpost. Now, what do you do when that happens?
It hurt.
You scream, you cry, you say, you do. Everything in the body just starts going haywire. And I'm jumping around, rubbing that toe, and instantly, the message was given to me. He told me, when I go to Africa, what was happening is that my brain shut down, my shoulders, my fingers, my elbows, my knees, everything in my body stopped doing what it was meant and purposed to do, and went to the immediate aid of the tiniest member on my body. That's what you're going to talk about. You're going to talk about how the body of Christ is going to work together. How we are to work together. There should be no lack, but there is.
What about when you had to pull that man's tooth and
Yes.
it wasn't with you to help you?
Oh,
Next time.
you can't say that. You cannot say that.
I'll give you some strong topical to take
No,
with
no,
you.
no, 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 no. I'm not against this, but I did get to pull off the last piece of the tooth. But what I'm saying in essence is
You do
that
what you need to help them.
some of the dentists didn't like it. They didn't particularly care for it, but I did. Thank you, Toni. Anyway, what I'm saying in essence is that Africa, America, any other continent, every other people in this world, just really and truly do what you can to come together. We're our only best hope.
Could I ask you, what was the major health problem with African women that you came in contact with?
Well, at the time it was just basically malaria. Malaria. But you're not going to believe this, but most of the children in some of these villages do not live past the age of 5. The oldest person in some of these villages, the eldest person may have been 32 years of age. They don't even know, you know.
What were some of the things that you thought before you went to Africa that you found that was really different?
That they eat me.
That's
That's what I thought. I was told that.
when was the first time you went?
In 2007.
And you thought they were going to...
No, I mean, that's what I was told as a child all that time.
What did you think?
Well, just not what I was told, like most of us do.
What did you think?
I thought that if I go to Africa, I'm never going to come back because they're going to kidnap me and keep me and I'll never see my family again.
And they were going to eat you.
And that's just real basic. I mean, that's really basic. But a lot of us are, you know, you're scared of the unknown. But that fear, that misunderstanding, that misinterpretation soon left me as I became an adult. Because I knew that a lot of times people say things they don't really mean. People say things that they don't really understand. People say things because they say things, you know.
You said you went to university. They offered things that you did not want. What were those things that they offered?
Well, they had a medical school actually, and they had a nursing school, but that didn't interest me. So there were some good programs, but there was no dentistry there.
Oh, the Indian community, did they socialize or live with the blacks?
Yes, we had and how I was brought up. I think my family is very unique in that
So
sense.
you weren't all in one little Indian compound?
Oh no, no.
Okay.
I asked Tony one time, because I didn't really know that much about Africa,
Sure.
and he showed me on the map that Africa was bigger than the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no way. And he said, yes, it is. Then he said India was next.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what?
It's amazing.
Well, why didn't they teach us this in school?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you only know certain things, and
Yes,
these are things that need to be taught
Yes.
as kids, and even now that I'm grown and I'm watching the History Channel
Right.
to find out things.
Exactly.
And so it was really interesting to sit down and talk to him and ask him questions. I
Yes.
felt kind of stupid with some of the things I was asking him, but he came right out and told me. I
Yes.
still felt stupid, but I still asked him anyway.
Right.
But it was just really interesting to hear the conversation, and that's when we came up with this subject, journey.
And that's what.
And so we thought this would be good.
I feel so blessed, you know, to have lived in Africa. And there was about 3 years of my life where we did actually travel to India, and I went to school in India for about 3 years, and then came back to Africa, and then came to the United States. So I feel very fortunate that I did have exposure to all these different things.
There has to be a need.
Yes.
There has to be a need a lot of times.
Yeah, and most people, I think here, because United States is so diverse and each state is so diverse, we get so caught up with just knowing things in school and everywhere about each state. Like last night my daughter was researching Washington because that was her assignment. Whereas in Africa, when I went to school for O-levels, which is, you know, the British, we had to know Canada. We had to know United States. We had to know other countries in order to pass your board exams. We had to, that was a requirement. And I don't know whether that's because we were a foreign colony at some point.
I think,
What do you think, Tony?
I think it's because there's strong emphasis in education and the desire and the interest in learning about the world. Not only that, that is also reinforced by your parents.
Absolutely.
Because that is the key to your future.
Yes.
Knowledge is power. And they will borrow money from neighbors to buy our tickets and send us to the most expensive universities or the most expensive schools in America or in Europe at all costs.
Because you went to school in London, didn't you?
Yes, I did go to school in the UK for a few years. But it's a lot of sacrifice because
That's
when,
the key word, sacrifice.
yes, when you come to America, you don't go to school for free. As a matter of fact, you're paying 2-3 times more
Correct.
what students here pay.
You pay the fee of an
International.
international student, which is
Yes.
either twice as much as what a United States citizen will pay, or 3 times as much.
Yes. And you don't have a visa to work. You're a student. You have a student visa, so you can't get a job.
Correct.
So,
You
yes.
can volunteer your time for free,
Yes.
but you don't get paid.
It's amazing.
But
It's
for us,
amazing.
for a lot of us, that was okay though, because that was still, because when I went to pharmacy school, all my friends, well, most of my American friends had jobs, so would go and get some experience in the pharmacy. In my case, when I tried to go, I actually tried to apply for a work visa, but I was denied a work visa. So all I could do was just go volunteer at maybe a nursing home or a hospital, just for a few hours, just to see what's going on there. But I couldn't even get to volunteer in the pharmacy at that time, because they were like, if you don't have the papers. So when I graduated pharmacy school, I didn't have the same kind of experience that my colleagues had, but I had the opportunity to do my 3 months of internship, which was required to get 1,500 hours for me to, before I could take my state board of, pharmacy state board examination. So that was my only opportunity. So once I passed my test and I was in the real world working as a pharmacist, you know, a lot of things were new to me. It was new, but a lot of my friends didn't know. It was just, that's all they did for 4 or 5 years of pharmacy school. They worked 20 hours a week and, you know, it was a piece of cake, but we didn't have that opportunity. But we would have loved to, but we, you know, we didn't. Yeah.
That's kind of sad, you know, because here we take school for granted. I mean, you don't like your kids, so they don't have homework. You say, okay, no, you don't have to do your homework. They should have homework.
Yes.
No, they want to look at television.
Exactly.
Play on a computer. Chris is a friend of ours, does nails, and his son is not allowed to be on the computer until Saturdays.
Right. You have to
Only on Saturday. He can't look at television all week long. And they're from Vietnam. And he said, and they're very smart children, but they cannot do it. My kids, you want to look at television? Go, please, go. Go play in the freeway. Just go away. But, I mean, I was a young mom, you know, and I didn't have time to be sitting there trying to read a book to you, and I'm trying to go to work and cook dinner and clean up and change your own diaper. You know, it was different back then. So it's different, you know.
Yeah. And whereas there, it's community. The community.
You can have anybody. It was you by yourself.
Right, and here you're by yourself.
Yeah, I didn't understand when I was in Africa talking about, you know, there's so much, there is crime. You know, there are some terrible, terrible things going on. Don't get me.
I left.
Exactly. I mean, yes, I've been in those areas, thank God. But one of the things I found out about young girls, now they're being raped and tortured and kidnapped and all these kinds of things. And my mind is like swollen. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Why can't you all kind of shut this stuff down a little bit at least? And I said, when I grew up, there was 11 people in my house. We all had a job.
You didn't have birth control.
We all had. We were all. No, we were not all siblings. We had cousins and things like that. But we all had something to do, and we all worked together like a well-oiled machine. We had 2 bedrooms, 11 people.
Excuse me, where is this?
In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And 2 bedrooms, and I'm thinking, but I didn't know any better, right? So you just do what you have to do. In Africa, when I'm listening to these women talking about AIDS, their husbands leaving them, you know, they're raping girls at 14 or younger because they're thinking that young girls are virgins and virgins will cure AIDS. I mean, really? And all these different things going on. And then I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay, so why don't you guys come together? This is a community, you're talking about community. They looked at me like I was talking Japanese because she said, one lady said to me, who was an older woman, she said, we all come from different dialects, backgrounds. So we're not working together. I said, so you're telling me that when you know that 3 and 4 year young girls have to get up and go to school in the morning, walk, not drive or ride, walk several miles, knowing full well they have to go past a particular location where there are people, young men that will harm these girls. You mean to tell me that you will allow that to happen? In essence, that's what they were telling me yes. So what I did was, I said, okay, what I need to do right now is I need everybody that's a widow, everybody that's single, everybody that's I need everybody to stand up, and I count them. Like if I had 4 groups, I said count them 4s, and then I put them all in groups, made them a family, right there on the spot. And none of those people in there were of the same background. I said, this is ridiculous. This is your sister.
Yeah.
This is a woman. This is your sister. You got a family now. The mother, the widow, you don't have to work. You keep her kids. Do you understand?
Yes.
You have to get past. You got to get past yourself.
Well, they said it takes a village to raise
It's exactly right.
But you see, also, it's not always been like that.
Right.
Poverty
Exactly.
and disconnection
Yes.
and lack of education
Sure.
causes some of that.
Yeah. But even that, the lowest common denominator, a human being,
Yes.
right? These are your daughters. Let's see what we can do. And so they were like, their eyes kind of opened up, and I'm like, it was so simple to me, but it's not that way. So we've got to get involved.
So I was just going to add also that sometimes the fear is what really prevents people from trying to get involved in situations like that.
So true.
Because as you know, in Africa, men, are really, really powerful.
Very powerful.
It's like the men can do whatever they want. They can have as many women.
Yes.
They can, rape girls. They can.
They do that here.
They can come in anytime. They rule the world, and the women. Some of them feel like, who's going to listen to me?
Right.
Just like if a child wants to go and say, well, I got raped. They're going to say, well, you're the bad one.
Yeah.
So the blame might get put on that child. So a lot of times when women see these things, even though they know it's wrong, and they want to do something, they feel powerless. Because they could then become, I understand what you're saying, that should not be a reason not to make a change.
But it is a reality.
Yeah, but it's a reality.
It's a reality.
And like my brother said, it never used to be like that. And now that's changing because now there's education, people,
Oprah's doing there.
Sorry?
Isn't Oprah doing a lot there for kids?
Oprah, not in Nigeria.
Oh, not in Nigeria.
Well, but
South
in Africa,
Yeah.
I think that's South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you separate, South Africa is a little bit more privileged to have a lot more than other parts of Africa.
Yeah.
Nigeria is West of Africa, and I think they could probably use more help in East Africa, West Africa, than maybe South Africa. But maybe that's the part of the country that most people are mostly aware of. But there are other places that are desperately in need of more help than like
I wish I could put together a tour group, get a tour group together and just go and do something, help.
And then the powerful men are the ones that are taking advantage of the women and the children. So if you say something, you get shut up. Your whole family could be at risk.
It's true.
So that's why they.
But what happens at that point? I mean, what happens? Do you not try to do something?
Does women? It's easy for us to say that being in this country, we can do something and be able to get people behind you. I mean, the laws are going to be there for you. But in Nigeria or in Africa, most countries, the authorities are already corrupt.
Yes, I understand.
Who are you going to go to the police? Well, you only have to do just bribe the police person.
Yes, I've been in that situation.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So we need to right from the top, some of the
starts.
African countries, if the leaders at the top could start, make a huge difference, that could trickle down a little bit.
Yeah.
They need to fear the Lord.
Sorry?
They need to fear the Lord.
They need to fear the Lord. Believe it or not.
That's the bottom line.
Right. That is
I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly.